Hello, Wake Up New Zealand, Sakey speaking. Well, electioneering, and people are saying we don't know who to vote for, and there's a lot of shite going down amongst the freedom group, blaming someone for this and someone for that, and Brian Tamaki shouldn't be the leader of this. And I am so fed up of all the bullshit, because if we don't come together, all together, then we don't have a chance in hell, and that is it. So I want to be left out of the Brian Tamaki argument of what's going on out there, because what I do is research, and I give that research to everyone, and it doesn't matter what party you are going to vote for, I'm giving this out. But for this reason, this is a very important reason, I am going to vote for Rock the Vote. The reason being is that no political party in or out of Parliament will give New Zealanders the end decision-making right on how our country is governed. When I say that, I am referring to citizens-initiated referendums. They are non-binding, non-legally imposed. The government does not have to apply what the majority of people in New Zealand want. Until we have binding initiators, citizens, referendums, that is not going to happen. So at this point, and for forever, the citizens of New Zealand have had no end decision-making rights. So I feel when you look at all the policies that are being put out there that politicians are talking about, you, the public, have no end decision-making rights. And I've been on this bandwagon for a long time now, and I've been trying to make people who are interested in politics, in governing this country, to actually jump on board with this. But Rock the Vote, the only ones, grassroots people, lovely people who really care about the country, are doing that. So what they're doing right now is seeking membership. So they desperately need those numbers up there. So please, people, go to their Facebook page and learn more about them. So I'm supporting them this year. So I know there will be backstabbing, but actually I don't care, because this has been part of what I have been trying to get going for a long time now, and not one party has listened to me. So we have a candidate there who is totally on board with it and has been for some time. And he believes totally in it, that the people of New Zealand must have a voice in running this country. And right now they haven't. So what are the questions you should be actually firing at these candidates? Doesn't matter what party, what should you be saying to them? Because people like Matt King, for instance, has already been an MP, so he knows a lot of what is happening. I would say a lot of parties know what is happening, but you've got your major parties that really do know what's happening. So first thing, mass migration. When Winston Peters in December 2018 went to Marrakesh in Morocco to sign the UN Global Migration Compact, UN Global Compact Migration, the government, Peters, that represented the government, signed it. But what he didn't say at the time, he left a bit out. He did not tell us that in Marrakesh in Morocco in December 2018, at the same time, a mayor's migration council was talking about localizing local governments, councils, and introducing mass migration into countries and C40 cities. And Auckland's a C40 city. And this was a new thing that they were going to use the Refugees Compact and the UN Global Compact together and introduce this Mayor's Migration Declaration by the Mayor's Migration Council. So C40 cities are very involved with this. So those pack and stacks that are going up everywhere, they're not for Mary Pacifica. They're not for the young ones who can't afford a house. Think about it, people. Mass migration by city councils. And if you go to the Auckland Council website, you will find MMC, Mayor's Migration Council. So they're not telling you about this. So when Matt King's going around, he, for instance, knows the stuff. But, you know, all those parties should know this stuff. So we've got Agenda 2030. Well, that into New Zealand, like 1900 UN agreements have been a party to New Zealand government over time. They mostly enter New Zealand agreed upon under what is called non-binding. So they're not acted on legally. But the problem there is the judicial can refer to them under certain circumstances and use them. So where do those international agreements sit? They sit in a place called soft law that can be actioned quite advantageously by the MPs in Parliament to introduce it into domestic law, making them legally binding without even the people of New Zealand knowing about it. And this is what happened with UN Agenda 2030. So it's accepted by all members of Parliament. You could call this what I call the third way, that in 2013 that Mahari talked about in Parliament, that Bill Clinton and Tony Blair were doing. He thought it was amazing and embraced it, etc. Third way, National, Labour, Red, Blue, and what's the third way? Where they're both working together. So when you think, oh, well, Labour and National look as if they're both on the same page, because it's the third way. They are. Of course they are. Do either of those, National, when they're talking out, I listened to Simon O'Connor. I went to a meeting, taxpayers meeting. Not one of them talk about Agenda 2030. Now, Agenda 2030, 2009, the World Economic Forum had a meeting of global CEOs of large companies, world leaders, philanthropists, academia, got them all together, and they said, hey, what would you like for the future? And this is what you got, because the following year, Klaus Schwab introduced the redesigning, the Global Redesign Initiative of stakeholder capitalism to destroy the free market economy. So yes, that is your fourth industrial revolution. That is Agenda 21. That is Agenda 2030. This is the Great Reset. This is what it is: stakeholder capitalism. So how are they going to bring that about? You've got to have crisis, because crisis will destroy the small businesses and the farmers, so we can have corporate capture where the government will change, because what you will have is stakeholder capitalism sitting in the front seat of the vehicle and the government as passengers in the back seat, and you, the people, the roadkill. Do they tell you about this? People, you need to ask these things when you go to these meetings. What else is there? So UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration Rights of the Indigenous People. Well, what about that? In 2007, Harimai, he was Minister of Maori Affairs. He was in Parliament. He was dead against this. Labour were dead against this. They talked about that Maori would have veto rights over Parliament, owning all land. This is the UN representative of New Zealand talking in the UN Assembly, said the reasons why, and these are some of the reasons why. And I will go over that, what she said the reasons were, in another video. So, but in 2000, and that was a Labour government, by the way, but Harimaya told the Maori Party to get the head out the clouds, because for many years they had been working with the UN on this UNDRIP agreement, which is actually an aspiration paper document. And Harimaya said they need to get their head out the clouds. We're not going there. That was Labour then. They've changed. Then National under John Key in 2010 secretly sent Peter Sharples of the Maori Party off to New York to sign it. And ever since then, we've had Willie Jackson working with the iwi, National Iwi Forum on this, and Nania Mahuta. And this is what it's all about. There's the government, iwi, National Iwi Group, Willie Jackson, Human Rights Commissioner. They're all working together to make this possible to be infiltrated right throughout New Zealand. And bit by bit, it is actually happening. When you think of the changes to the RMA, Resource Management Act, think about this. And the new iwis on these committees, regional planning committees, 2 or more, unelected by you, not to run this country. You did not elect them to run this country. So that is another one. This is what's happening right now. Control of New Zealand by iwi, a certain iwi, hapu, who are money hungry and power hungry, to be controlling this country. All under decolonisation, and it's all being done under crisis, and never let a good crisis go to waste. And that is what's happening. And I know I will be shot down for this. And I want people to know this is only certain minority activists, iwi, hapu organisations who are working with Willie Jackson and the government and the Human Rights Commission, Nadia Mahuta, Tipa Mahuta, who's in charge. No, she's a chair, Tapuna, who is part of gauging or determining what water safety is in New Zealand. So talking about water safety, the chemicals in our water determined by Tapuna under Maori Wellbeing Holistic. Really? When Christchurch has got quality water and have been turned down for an exemption. So you've got an act that came about in 2021 that determines that Te Mata Arowai is the new government water regulator who uses Tapuna for safety of the water in New Zealand. So now all the councils have to apply for an exemption not to have chloride in their water. Well, I've done some research around that, and I am going to get on to that one too, and that is around fluoride and chlorine. So back to that one. So people, water, you've got to have water. It's life's force. It's your God-given right. But these parties know all this, but they won't talk about it when they go around on the electioneering campaign. They will tell you everything they want you to hear. They will cherry pick. They will say, we have from here to here time. Oh, and that's where the toilets are. This is our time, and then we must shut it down. And I sit there with my hand up for an hour, and they know me by name, and they will not answer my questions. So what we're looking at in New Zealand, they're in Parliament, they are all on this Agenda 2030 train, degrowth communism, to destroy small businesses, to destroy farmers, to do growth New Zealand. It's not growth anymore under happiness indicators of Ardern's to hide the GDP. And that's another question you can ask about the happiness indicators. How do they measure happiness? You can't measure happiness. You just cannot do it. They are lying to you. And they would say, oh, we've got to put pay to misinformation. No, let's put pay to the bloody lies they are telling us. Wake up, New Zealand. Make a list of these very important questions that no one is asking. Mostly because people don't know about it. So I'm going to make some videos on these very important issues that people need to target these political parties with when they go to their electioneering meetings, their campaigns. Wake up, New Zealand.